here's where this story probably gets a little more cliche here, but this is when like stuff started happening. Okay, I may or may not have been sleeping the best. I may or may not have only been getting about 4, maybe 5 hours of sleep a night. But you know, it wasn't the day I thought it was gonna be, and ultimately, like I didn't hit the goal score that I wanted, and I was just disappointed. Like I was probably one of the most disappointing days in my life, like just highly disappointed. And I didn't. What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Atlasthemd student. Please don't forget the student, and we are back again today with some more free game for you. I appreciate the love y'all showed to the last video with my girlfriend on. A lot of great questions, a lot of great comments on that one, so we appreciate it. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to help this channel grow, to reach as many people as possible, and to continue to spread the reality that like we can make it into medical school, we can have a life, we can do all the things that people try to place us in this box and more, we are capable of doing. On today's episode, I'm going to discuss my experiences on the ever daunting Step 1 exam. So I've mentioned it in the past, but Step 1 exam is the exam that medical students will take after their first 2 years in medical school. It has this like big aura over it because it's the one exam that may possibly determine what potential specialty you may be able to go into. So you'll hear people describe it as a 3-digit score to determine your life's work. Little exaggerated, but I mean, it's still kind of true. So I'm going to talk about my experience on this exam. I will try to be as honest as possible, as I always do, and I will give you some encouraging things along the way. I don't want you to be afraid. I think that's the biggest thing, is that this test always comes off to students like it's the worst thing ever in the world. And I don't believe in my heart that's what it was for me, but I do think that it was a learning experience and it was a struggle of its own that every medical student will go through. And I think it's just a part of trials and tribulation type thing that happens in life. And I think without me even going into like a study strategy, which I will do later, but I think it's just good to kind of reflect on my experience for you all, because I know there are some second year medical students and maybe even third year medical students who are still working towards this exam because of how the pandemic has shaped out. So prior to even starting into your like full-blown study, take a look at this video, you know, hear what I have to say, hear what other students have to say, and that way you'll be a little bit more prepared about what can occur, what will occur, and you know, be able to better go about your studying as you go along. Okay, so let me start from the beginning. So first thing, every medical school has a different schedule of when students are scheduled to take Step 1. At my institution, we have a curriculum to where we learn our basic science curriculum those first 2 years over 18 months. So we start in August of your first year, and we just basically go year round with small 2-week breaks in between, but we will finish our first and second year of classroom instruction in December. December of your second fall, however you want to put it, right? So after December, we have like basically from December until March to take the Step 1 exam. We had to have our Step 1 exam done by March the 6th of this past year, 2020. We had a month in January in which they were trying to like prepare us. We did like case examples with faculty, and we had like 4th year medical students come in and work through cases that could both help us with our clinical reasoning and our Step 1 preparation. And then at the end of January, we took a comprehensive basic science exam, almost like a practice Step 1, but it was really just to evaluate like where we were prior to heading into what's called dedicated Step 1 studying, which every institution has something of the sort, whether it's 3 months, 6 weeks, however long it is. This is when basically your institution leaves you alone and you activate your study plan, your 0 dark 30, right? So your 0 dark 30 to prepare for your own personal Step 1 exam at your own personal date. So, given that, I walked into step one. I walked into medical school, and everybody's like thinking about step one. And I told y'all in a previous video, like I didn't have expectations for medical school. I kind of navigated my pre-med route a little bit differently. So I came into medical school not really knowing the significance of the step one exam. So just kind of hearing people talk about it, you know, I work well under pressure. So I didn't really feel like I needed to just like actively start preparing for step one as soon as school started my first year. So I just focused on trying to be the best medical student I could. You know, I was more so focused on doing well with my first couple medical school exams versus like going ahead and preparing for step one, which some people will do once they start medical school, but that wasn't me. So as I started to learn more about step one and more about its significance, I basically looked at it and said, listen, I'm not the best test taker, but I'm getting better. Like in medical school, I was gaining steam as I went along. So I was like, okay, I will start, you know, hammering down on step one preparation, like once I hit the summer before my second year. So the summer before my second year, I went ahead and purchased Lecturio, I think it was. So there's a lot of test prep things that you can get for step one, whether it's like you know, the outside resources I talked about in the other video, you know, Boards and Beyond, Sketchy and First Aid and UWorld is big. So all of those resources I talked about in the other video you can do, but then specifically when it comes time to like actively start doing questions in preparation for step one, you can purchase other things. So I was saving UWorld. I wanted to use UWorld strictly during that dedicated time period. And I was like, okay, but I want a question bank now. So I purchased Lecturio. I heard it being like advertised, like all the YouTube advertisements. So I was like, let's try it out. So I did that over the summer before the fall of my second year. So this is summer of 2019. I purchased Lecturio, and I would do just questions here and there. Didn't try to like actively take notes on anything, just like questions here and there. And I'll end of the video, I'll talk about like what I would do differently, but just telling you what happened. So I would do the Lecturio questions every now and then if I didn't have anything to do, just getting a feel for what the questions were like. And it wasn't like it was like crazy to my thought process. I was just like, these are questions and I'll adjust. I didn't feel that impending doom of the test. I wasn't the student who said, I'm gonna open up UWorld early and like work through it twice. That wasn't me at that time. The only thing I did prior to going into December was I met with an advisor on campus to like nail down a study plan. First thing was like, what's your goal score? And I had high hopes, guys. You know, I was shooting for the stars. So in terms of the scoring scale, I don't really know the high score. Maybe the high score is 300. I've never heard of anybody getting it, but like once you hit like 270, you might as well have it, right? So that's what usually you see people, they hit 270, it's you about at 100%, okay? And then the passing score is 194. Yes, passing score was 194. And I don't even know, obviously you can get lower scores than that, but I don't know for certain like where the cutoff is for minimum. But the passing is 194. The average score is like 230, 231, I think. I think this past year it ended up being like 231. So that's where your scoring range is. Competitive specialties, we're talking 240 up. I mean, you know, different specialties will say whatever they want, but if you can score 240 up, you're like 65th, 70th percentile, somewhere in there. So you're good. So just so you have an idea of like where these scoring ranges are. And she was like, you know, what's your goal score? And I'm like, you know, I might want to do something competitive. I'm shooting for the stars. So I'm like, you know what, goal score, 260. This is in like December. So goal score is 260. Give me all them coins. That's what I was thinking. And she's like, okay, I think you can do it. Like, given your schedule, because she knew me from like the year, she's like, given your schedule, given your like work ethic, I don't see a reason why you can't get this done. I'm like, you doggone Skippy. Let's get this work. So I started like actually studying over the break of December. I took a couple days for like family and everything like that, but I was still in the books, going through Pathoma, going through Boards and Beyond, like redoing stuff. And then I was still using Lecturio because I said I won't start UWorld till January 1, beginning of the new year. So I was working through all of my week sections, the stuff that caused me trouble during the block. So basically everything that was in first year that I couldn't remember the most of, like that's what I went back and did over the break. And I just worked through the Pathoma videos and everything and did the questions on them. So I felt a little bit stronger heading into January. I didn't like compare myself to other students. I'm really good about being fairly tunnel visioned about what I got going on. I don't want to know what you have going on. And I'll tell you if you ask me, but I'm not actively seeking out other students' information because I know myself the best. Like that's how I always operated. And I take this practice step 1 exam, I take that. You took that in January, so it was like January 28th, right? And all I was trying to do for that exam was pass. Like if I got a pass in school, I was like, you know what? We're good. And got it back, and I was 1 point over pass and said we in a good spot. But after that day, it was time to buckle down. Here's where this story probably gets a little more cliche here, but this is when like stuff started happening, okay? I had initially placed my date for my exam to be like, I think the last weekend in February, like February 20, yeah. I think I placed it like February 28th because I wanted that week for vacation because we had to have our step 1 exam done, as I mentioned, like March 6th. So if I had it done earlier, I could get a week of vacation before like our summer program that they had set up for us. And so I was like, okay, I've been studying. I feel very confident that I can do what I need to do, get my goal score, and take this test a week early than what they've scheduled for us, and move on. So I put it on February 28th. That gave me like exactly 6 weeks from the time that I took the basic science exam to the day of my test. A backstory to this is so, obviously I lived with a roommate and we were best of friends. Like we both came in through the same pipeline program that I told you guys about before. So we basically now, current day, have known each other for like 3 years. So like over 3 years now. So we had always had this, we were both kind of the same mentality of like fairly competitive, but like internally motivated competitive. So it's just like, if he can do it, then I can do it too. If I can do it, then he can do it too. So it's almost like pushing each other, to be the best out of each other at all times. And we were both thriving off of that nature in our house. Like we would ask each other questions, we would teach each other what we didn't know. If I had a strength, which was, MSK, certain like behavioral type things. And then he was just a beast at like all the basic sciences things. So that was how we learned and then did everything. And so he had been like on top of this exam stuff for the longest. And I was like, I feel confident I can buckle down and prepare. He was like, listen, I'm not leaving nothing to chance. And so we kind of approached it different ways, but we were still getting fairly similar results when we, did our studying. So again, like we're in the house, we're studying. My study schedule basically was, I moved pretty quickly through questions and I learned a lot through them all. So my focus was just like as many questions as possible. I had done all my content review that I felt like I needed to do. And I was doing 100 to 120 questions a day, basically. My very first practice NBME was like 208. And I think I took like maybe a week into studying in February. So, I mean, it was good progress. It was basically like 13 points from, so 195 to 208. A 13-point jump in a week. Pretty confident. Still have about 5 weeks until the exam. Ready to go, not changing anything, move on. It took a turn when I took the UWorld Self-Assessment 1. And the reason it took a turn when I took UWorld Self-Assessment 1 is because I had fallen up with my advisor. We were loving my progress. I was doing well. So I had an expected score for this UWorld Self-Assessment 1 to be somewhere like, near a good score. And I don't remember if this is like week 2 or week 3 of my studying, but we felt like I should have been, somewhere near the like average of like in the 220s to 230s, like somewhere in there is where I expected to fall and where she expected me to fall. Because I think I had even done another NBME and it had gone to like 215 or 218. And the NBME said notoriously for everybody we had talked to, had been like underrating everyone's score. So I thought that I should be, above where the NBME was, maybe definitely not yet to like the goal score of the 240s, 250s, 260s. So I was thinking it should be like 220 or something like that, right? And I go in there and I think what was riding on is like me, it was just something odd about that day of me going to take this exam. Our school had set it where we could come to campus and we could take like UWorld Self-Assessment 1 and UWorld Self-Assessment 2. And it would like be essentially the same length of a full Step 1 exam. And I ultimately decided to only do one and save the other for closer to the test date because the UWorld Self-Assessment 2 was supposed to be more indicative of what I was scoring on test day. I went into the UWorld Self-Assessment 1 on campus and felt good, felt great, answering questions, boom, boom, and ended up scoring much slower than what I had been scoring. I think, like I said, the last NBME was like closer to 220. I'm not remembering exactly which one it was. And I came back to this UWorld Self-Assessment 1 and went back to like 204 or 205 or something like that. And it was, I remember seeing that score on the screen and it was like the world was ending. Like, I could not understand what just happened. You know what I mean? Like, it was like devastating, truly devastating, because I knew that I put so much work into this and could not understand what had gone wrong. And I started looking through the questions that I got wrong, and guys, we're talking like blatant mistakes, like gout showing you like the crystals under the negative birefringence and everything, like literally answer on the screen. Big pictures, like all kinds of just mistakes everywhere, like not reading the questions correctly, like having a picture in front of you and thinking something else, like getting the same question wrong twice, like all kinds of just like blatant mistakes of just, it made absolutely no sense. Like I go talk to a roommate, he's like, you noticed, like, what were you thinking? And I go to my advisor and she's just like, okay, so this is not about your intelligence, like what else is going on? And so I may or may not have been sleeping the best. I may or may not have only been getting about 4, maybe 5 hours of sleep a night. But you know, I don't even know why. As I grew older, I wasn't the best at sleeping necessarily because, like, I don't know, I would either, like, sleep wasn't ever, when I was younger, I would sleep a lot. But I think as I got older and I played football and like early workouts and stuff like that, my body just got accustomed to waking up early no matter what time I went to sleep. So I think I started taking advantage of that when it came time to studying because I could get up really early in the morning, whether it's like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, didn't matter. It didn't matter what time I went to sleep that night. I could get up and be ready to go with energy and everything just because I had gotten so used to that. So I guess I took advantage of that in studying for this exam and saying like, listen, I can get a lot of stuff done in a day and still have great energy. And the problem was now it might have like just put me on more of an edge and I wasn't as sharp when going through these questions. Combine that with like the pressure that you sometimes can put on yourself for certain exams, like it basically just set me back. So from that day, I had to basically like refocus and learn to just like take things slower. I went back and like tried to rewatch lectures and slow down when I was studying, doing like real basic in-depth content reviews of things. I had been listening to Goyan lectures when I worked out, and I just kind of had to basically slow down my approach because I had been going basically so fast, focusing in on these questions and these answers and these results and pushing so hard to try to get this score, and it was not working right now. It just wasn't working. And so to follow up on that backstory, like I said, you know, my roommate, he was still climbing, you know what I mean? Like his score was still going up and I was like, I can get that. Like when we're talking, I understand, but why is my score not happening? I was pressing so hard. And so I really just had to kind of like take a step back and like truly focus in on myself. I wasn't worried about anybody else. I was more so just like pushing so much pressure on myself to like improve a lot. So yeah, after that, basically refocus. I ended up having to actually start taking like melatonin. It's a natural supplement, by the way. It's not anything bad, guys, if you're not worried about it. But it's a natural herbal aid to assist with sleep. So that's how I had to start doing it, because I literally just wouldn't fall asleep. It wasn't that I was just like staying up. I just would get in the bed and not fall asleep. And when I would do that, I'd say, well, I might as well be studying for all that. Like, if I'm sitting here for 2 hours trying to fall asleep, I might as well get something out of it. So I would just study. So I prioritized it, went to bed at a better time, took the melatonin, and that seemed to start working. The vacation I had scheduled, I was supposed to go visit my brother in Texas. That week after my step 1 exam, I was supposed to be going to visit my brother. So if I moved my test date back because I wasn't getting the score I want, then I was gonna have to cancel that trip. So we were trying to avoid that, but the score is what mattered most. I took another NBME. This is now like week 4, I believe. It increased, right? So it was a good sign. Maybe the UWorld Self-Assessment 1 was like an example of just me kind of falling apart on that test day. Because it was, the NBME improved to a point where it's like, okay, that was a phantom score, right? And so we were basically gonna say, take UWorld Self-Assessment 2, and that will determine whether or not I push my test back. Because we needed to see something much closer to the goal score now, which had been adjusted. It was no longer 260, like it was 250, 240, something like that. Like, we gotta bring this down. We gotta be realistic. UWorld Self-Assessment 1 went to 224. And I wasn't overjoyed. I mean, it was good because it was fine that the other scores were just kind of like I said, they were phantom scores, but it's still like it wasn't the goal score. So I was still really not knowing what to do, and I basically made the hard decision to say, like, listen, I need some more time. We're gonna push this exam date back because I want to give everything to it. I'm not gonna rush myself trying to get a score that was not there. Made a decision, moved the test date back a week, so now I'm taking it on the last day of qualifications for my institution. So I'm taking it now March 6th. I was still going through UWorld. I think I finished it, and I had picked up AMBOSS. And AMBOSS was basically helping me to see harder questions, to work harder to get to the answers, and I was feeling really, really good about getting a better score and better spirits. AMBOSS was having their free, practice step 1 or whatever they call it. So I took that, and I was like, okay, if I can do well on this, we gonna be Gucci, right? So did really well in terms of like percentages, and it's always crazy how the percent right creates with the actual like step 1 score, because it's all based on like percentiles and bell curve type things. So it's not about like, oh, if I get 80% right, it's always going to be a 240. If I get 60% right, it's always going to be a 230. It's based around who takes the exam with you and where they're at. So on the AMBOSS one, I felt really good. I think it was like 75% correct of these answers, or like closer to 80% or something like that. So I was like, okay, we gotta be on it. And when that score came back, I was expecting it to be much closer to like the new goal score. I was expecting it to be 240 plus or whatever. And it came back. This is now the week leading into my exam. It's beginning of March, and it came back, it was 235. And my advisor, she's like, this is good, this is good. And roommate's like, bro, you gonna be good. And I'm like, I don't really know. Like, I'm not feeling this, guys. I don't feel this in my soul that this is what it's supposed to be. But I'm like, I don't have no more studying left in me. Like, at this point, I've gone through UWorld. I've gone through, good half worth of AMBOSS and have been doing well in my percentages. It's like, went through first aid, had the like first aid Anki cards and gone through them and everything like that, and I'm feeling pretty good about things. So I'm like, you know what? Right now, I don't have any studying left in me, so we're gonna take this exam and we're just gonna hope for the best. And I went to exam day, I always dress fly. Went in there, suit, turtleneck, chain, fly, fresh cut, you know what I mean? Had to take all that off, by the way. So my classmate there, and she knew, like, I take the exams at school dressed up, dressed good, look good, feel good, play good, all that. She knew, and the exam lady, she's just like, does he always do this? They're like, yep. But I had to take all that off. So chain had to be covered, like everything had to go. It's too hot in there, so I had to take the jacket off too. So at the end of the day, it didn't even matter. But got the exam day. I thought the exam was fair. I mean, everybody else stressed like this is the hardest exam in the world. Like, I thought it was fair. There were parts of it that was just like extremely like, I don't know what you're talking about. There was stuff that's just like, how do you pull this on me? This is not fair. But most of it was a very fair test based on what I had been studying. So there's no way to leave that exam feeling great. The feeling that I felt leaving the exam was that it is over. I don't care. I don't have to deal with this no more. Like, get me up out of here, and we'll worry about that score stuff later. The exam's over with. Let's just move on with life. So I'm feeling good. The closer I get to my score coming back, I feel really, really good about it. Feeling great. I was with my girlfriend at the time that my score actually came back, and I was gonna like make this big like score reaction video and everything, and it was gonna be this like wonderful time. I had been having dreams about like, this is gonna be a great like thing when the score comes back. And it didn't really happen that way. There was a score reaction, but it never saw the light of day. It wasn't the day I thought it was gonna be, and ultimately, like I didn't hit the goal score that I wanted. And I was just disappointed. Like, I was probably one of the most disappointing days in my life. Like, just highly disappointed, and I didn't know what to think about it. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, you put so much, and I thought I wasn't gonna be this kind of person that put this much stress on myself over an exam. But after going through the process and putting so much into it, I think my body and my mind just did not know how to process not getting what I wanted to see. But I didn't really speak for like 30 minutes to an hour. Like, I really didn't say any kind of words, no kind of like real emotion coming out. Like, it was almost like a state of shock, really. After a while, we went for a walk like around the neighborhood, and then, I just got this peace, this feeling. Like, I'm thinking and I'm toiling over like, what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna be able to do what I wanted to do. And I just got this like feeling of peace after a while, because granted, like, I have specialty in mind of what I want to do, but I got this peace because I said, nothing to this date for me has been easy going into medical school. Nothing to this date within medical school has been easy. And why would God continuously give me this path and not believe that I can do something with it? You know what I mean? Like, he gives each person a battle, a struggle, and he gives it to you because he believes and he knows that this is what testimony, this is what story you were meant to have. And so when I had that speak to me in that moment, I remember looking over at her and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm good." And like, literally from that moment on, I wasn't sad anymore. I was good to go. Like, I got more perked up as it went along, but I was completely fine from all of the shock and like sadness that I had. And I realized, like, whatever was to happen, whether I choose a specialty that was highly competitive or whether I choose something that wasn't as highly competitive, like, whatever comes of this story, it's gonna be like one hell of a story to tell when it's all over. And really from that day, I said, you know what? I'm not gonna let, when I started, yeah, but definitely now it's like, I'm not letting my disappointment define me now. I'm gonna still work really, really hard, and I'll work even harder to prove what I would know that I actually am inside. So that was kind of what drove me from that day, and I made a lot of moves, which we'll talk about later. That's gonna get into a lot, but just made a lot of like improvement and strides after that day, because I had this clarity about who I was, this clarity about the work that I had put into this test and how much it really did not define what I was, but that it was also going to be a defining moment in my journey to medical school if I chose to make it so. And I chose that day to say, listen, this may not have been what you wanted, but it may have been exactly what you needed. So looking back, because I promised I would say like what I would do differently. And I do have some things. Sometimes people are like, oh, I don't know what I would do differently. I wouldn't change a thing. Everything happened how it was supposed to happen. Nope, there's some things I would do differently. So first, when I was studying to start, like before I got into dedicated study, and I tell the students that I meet now, like, study with a purpose. I was out here doing random lectural questions, trying to just like get a feel for the questions. But like if you're doing questions at any point in time, take your notes, take note of your wrongs and keep that in some sort of like notebook or file or Quizlet or Anki, whatever it is. Make sure that you're always improving on the things that you're getting wrong. You're building your foundation. The same things I went over in that Keys to First Year Medical School Success, like same things. Always study with a purpose. Keep track of the things that you're getting wrong so that you don't get them wrong again. The other thing I would change, I probably wouldn't have purchased Lecturio. Not saying that their service is bad, but it's just, it wasn't a necessary thing. I could have worked through UWorld twice. There's no harm in that. Like, if I would have worked through UWorld twice, then I would have been in better shape. That whole thing about like me remembering the answers, like it's okay. Don't even worry about it. Like it's fine to do a couple of questions a day, starting in your second year or whatever, and do like 5 to 10 questions a day. By the time you get to your dedicated study, you won't remember them that well anyway. You would have seen thousands. And if you do, then it's just about like working through why, knowing the concept behind that, and you'll be fine. So I definitely probably would not have gone and like bought Lecturio just for a random source, because I don't think it was necessary. It just happened. I probably would have slept. I probably would have focused a little bit more on my sleep health. But I can't say that in the same situation, like you're able to just like always constantly keep that same sort of schedule. Like it's a stressful time. So if it happens that way, I think it was a good experience for me to know that yes, you should prioritize sleep and do what you need to do. But I think everybody will have whatever. Some people like they sacrifice the eating. They don't really eat as much. Some people stop going to the gym. Some people lose sleep. Like you're gonna lose something because you're stressing out trying to like be the best student you can, be the best studier you can, and you're isolated too, so you're not really seeing your friends as much. So there's gonna be something that will suffer, and it's something that you have to experience because you're not gonna be able to keep everything perfect. It's just, I don't see how. But for me, it happened to be the sleep, and going back, if you're saying, would you change it? If I could, I would, and saying that like, I would try to do so. Now, would it have happened the same way? Probably, even if I did, because I had to sacrifice something. I was still eating very well. I was still exercising. Like all of that was going great. It was just like the sleep wasn't high on the priority list, I guess. Oh, and just pure off, I would have just started studying earlier. Like I said, my roommate, he was kind of focused on like step one, like basically from the time we got into school. I wouldn't have started like that early, but like I definitely would have been thinking about it more in first year. Probably like after first semester, just because like it's a very large exam, and for someone like me who never was like out here balling on standardized tests, MCAT, SATs, all that, like I never was a baller on them, so I would have like started studying earlier, and that's what I've started doing now towards like step 2. I'm not gonna let step 1 beat me once, you know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna let the same struggles beat me twice. So start early. There's no harm in it. Do a little bit every single day, and you won't have to worry about later on looking back and saying, oh, I wish I would have done this. Just put everything you have into it now, and not let a prior struggle beat you twice. Whatever mistakes you did on the MCAT or on step 1 or whatever the prior exam is, like learn from those and ball out. Try to do everything you can for the next test that you have. Even if you're on your block exams or your exams in class, if you made a mistake on the first semester exams, don't do those same things on the second one. Like rectify them and try something new in order to make yourself better. Step 1 is going to be an experience you have to have, regardless of where you want to score, regardless of how high, how low, how much close to the average. Everyone will experience the stress, the struggle, the journey it is to take the step 1 exam. And I know with it going pass fail, we're wondering what's going to happen. I think students will still have very similar ideas, very similar stories in how they're doing this, because we're all type A students and we want to do well. So we're going to push ourselves to do well anyway. Try to maintain some sort of normalcy and understand who you are as a person. If you've never been a person to do really, really well with standardized exams, lower your stress level by going ahead and starting your preparation a little bit earlier than most. Focus on building a great foundation. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be doing 10, 20, UWorld or AMBOSS questions a day to say you're preparing for step 1. It could be about just learning the renal system the best that you can inside and out. It could be just literally taking some extra time to review a topic once you've already passed it in your pre-clerkship study, because you're going to see it again. But doing something that says, listen, I'm trying to maintain this information over a long period of time will greatly help you in your preparation for step one. And especially if you're a student who has not notoriously done well on standardized exams. Like this, it doesn't mean that you will do bad on this one. It just means you have to be cognizant of who you are and saying, I'm willing to put in something extra to do well on this exam. If you're heading into this time period for step one, be encouraged. You know, it's not gonna be the worst. It might be the worst thing in your life. It may be a time period that you feel like it's the worst time period of your life, but if you give it a chance, you can learn so much about yourself. You will come out much stronger. You will have your own struggles. You will have your own journey, but everyone will. So there's no need to compare yourself to anyone else. Like I said, I was able to Zoom focus. If that needs to be you, it's okay. If you need just one friend, I know for our friend group, we kind of said, you know, everybody had somebody that they felt more comfortable with and were able to keep in contact with more frequently, but we all kind of checked in periodically on one another. But it doesn't mean that we were with each other every single day trying to update each other on how we were doing. It's just like saying, okay, hey, have you talked to so-and-so? Check in with your friends, but it doesn't mean that you have to always be around them because that energy from everyone is not gonna be good for everyone. But yeah, go focusing on your own journey, your own story, your own goals, because this is a time period where you do have to be selfish for yourself to say, I want to do this for me, and this is going to be my journey, my story. Learn about yourself, grow within yourself, and think of this as more so your own goals and not the pressure of someone saying, oh, this score will define who you are, because it won't. There's so many other things that you can do, and this is going to be pass fail anyway in a couple of years. So thank you guys for listening. I will come back with another video to kind of talk about the study strategies I use, but I think the first thing I had to get accomplished is just telling you my thoughts, feelings, and opinions of my own step one experience and journey. If you ask me, like, am I happy with my score? I could be happier if we're being honest, but am I happy with my experience? Definitely. I think it taught me a lot. I'm looking forward to step two, actually, to kind of, you know, do what I know I'm capable of doing inside. But thank you guys for listening. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. You can find me here on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram. Let's continue to grow this family, this reach. But until then, it's Atlasthemd student. Please don't forget the students. See y'all next time.